In today's video, I'll discuss the 4 stages of symbolic art from the Lectures of Fine Arts by George Frederick Hegel. Now, the Hegel symbolic stage is divided into 4 phases of progression. In the first stage, spirit is conceived with nature. That is, spirit is taken in unity with nature. Hegel gives an expression from the religious traditions of the early period, the 7th century BC, that the art of that time did not use light as a symbol, but took light as God and God himself, the same Ahura Mazda to light in the distance. And according to Hegel, it was the prophet Zoroaster who declared that Ahura Mazda is an uncreated good, wise God. This means that in the art and sculptures of the same stage, spirit and nature were intertwined. In the second stage, there was separation between spirit and nature, and natural objects and human beings become God themselves. Here, Hegel gives an example of Hindu art, that there was a distortion in the formation of art, and art was created by creating a new exaggeration, by reflecting on the form, and the concept of Hinduism is not separated from divinity, forms, but spirit. In this distortion, it is present with its identity. According to Hegel, Hindu art has failed to attain an artistic expression because the spirit could not show itself freely. In the circle moments of this art, the first 2 stages can be placed on extreme positions, while the third and fourth stages can be placed between these 2 positions. In the third stage, the focus is on the inner self for the immortality of the soul. Here, Hegel gives the example of Egyptian art, but here the individual lack the spiritual freedom of life. In the fourth stage, in free art, nature and spirits are completely separated from each other, but here spirits are used instead of human traits, divine attribute. Believed and God was shown so different from nature that nature began to feel negative. Here Hegel gives the example of Jewish art, that he did not create real work of art because Judaism perfected spirit and matter were separated. In these 4 stages, Hegel's goal is to show the different societies and historical period in which art, matter, and spirit were bound, and when this matter and spirit become separate. Now, classical stage. The classical stage emerges from the creative activities of the spirit. From Hegel's point of view, the origin of these creative activities come from within the thoughts of artist and the poet. Greek art, from Hegel's example, is an example of classical art. The form is invented by the artist, and therefore Greek deity art was neither a poetic invention nor an artificial creation. Their original roots were within the spirit in the Greek beliefs. That is why classical art is created and is the kind of art creation man has self-identity. This was the manifestation of whatever Greek created. According to Hegel, there is an absolute representation of the classical art ideal in order to complete the beauty. Then romantic art. This is the final moment of art. In romantic art, the historical circle of art moments of spirit. According to the romantic art, the spirit is higher and superior to the sensual outer form of beauty. According to Hegel, in the inner world of the civil or spiritual world, the spirits find reality. Here, the spirit attains absolute freedom, and the spirit here attains a higher level of self-consciousness. Romantic because of art, humanity goes beyond subjective and personality and achieves its ultimate perfection and fullness. Here is romantic art. The spirit finds the divine within itself, and the human gets infinite attraction, and the subjective spirit becomes chronic and infinite. The evolution of spirit in art. According to Hegel, architecture sets the material world in order and symmetrically. Then comes sculpture and then painting. As if art gradually moves away from matter and closer to spirit, according to Hegel, poetry is more spiritual representation because here the material art ends and the imagination begins. Spirit has to go through three stages to reach the absolute. Hegel does not use these dialectical terms but uses the word whole, which is called history. According to Hegel, the symbolic stage is the thesis, the classical stage is the thesis, and the romantic stage is the synthesis. Now, in history, in each of these three stages, there is repeat and advance minute, and the date is generated. And when the last point is to get the absolute spirit at perfection, then art of the history will end. According to Hegel, art, artistic, and sensory images are used. Similarly, poetry uses verbal images, artists use imagination for these images. This is a unique ability of artists, that is, it is not a craft to put the pieces together, but an imaginative activity, that is, a thinking process in images. This is a concept of romanticism, that is, the art of bringing images to the fore while thinking. The expression of the human spirit is an expression of imagination. In the history of art, Hegel sees the same emotional expression. According to him, Egyptian art was mostly religious art. Classical art was mostly a message of order and harmony. Romantic art was kind and ambient unfolding art. According to Hegel, it was process of unfolding itself in all art's history. In a way, this art was conscious being. Thank you so much. If this video was helpful, give it big thumbs up and subscribe my channel.